My name is Elaine Hall, and I'm the founder of the Miracle Project, and that's what brings me here. But what brings me here is my heart and love of this extraordinary young man that we feel so privileged to be hosting and honoring and revealing his voice to the world. Josh has a pretty extraordinary bio, and which you can read in depth on his his website, which is joshuacorwin.com. But I'm just going to give you a little bit for those of you who don't know this part. Is that most of you know that Josh is a native Californian, and he's neurodiverse. He's a pushcart nominated poet with a BA in mathematics and a minor in philosophy from Pitzer College. His debut poetry collection, which we are going to be hearing from and about today, Becoming Vulnerable, details his experience with autism. There it is. With autism, addiction, sobriety, and spirituality. And I'll let you read more about him on his website. We are really excited that Joshua is going to be teaching an exploration in poetry through the Miracle Project, which is our nonprofit organization held at the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts in Beverly Hills. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. For right now, we're so excited to have you, Josh, and we're going to jump into a little bit in just a few seconds, but I want to introduce you to my fellow colleagues at the Miracle Project, which would be Julie Hain and Hannah Warren. Whoop, she just jumped up. She's back. She's helping to coordinate all of this, and she's been putting all of this together for us. And a couple of just housekeeping. We're going to keep everyone muted except for Josh for right now. And we're going to ask you if you could be so kind as to not chat while Josh is speaking, so that we can really focus on Josh's words. Josh, you know, I read your bio just because it so compels me to read it, but I have to talk personally about you without.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I go ahead? Can I do that?
Absolutely.
So, well, everyone, welcome here. This is our first ever virtual Zoom book launch. And because, Joshua, you are such a pioneer, I feel that it's pretty extraordinary that we get to pioneer this launch with you. I wrote about when I read Joshua's book. First of all, I have been a fan of Joshua Corwin for what, 12, 15 years now?
Yeah, at least since This Inspire Teens.
For the Vista Inspired Teens. And there you were a mentor to Jeff's and my son, Neil Katz. You got him, you saw him, you heard him. My son's non-speaking, our son's non-speaking, and Josh knew how to listen and really, really hear him. As well as speaking my son's words, our son Neil types to communicate, and Josh has been his voice, reading his words at different synagogues and events throughout Los Angeles. So you touch my heart in so many ways for what you've done for our son, how you've mentored so many other people, but all these ways, sitting in your living room and hear you play piano, improvise piano, and then you're such a genius in whatever you do. To me personally, that you have chosen as your life's path, your mission, to spread your experience, your knowledge, your heart, your soul about neurodiversity with others. The courage, and I feel your mission. I said it in my testimonial. So I'll read it, that by inviting us into his world, Joshua's insights and wisdom remind us to listen and to be compassionate to the vulnerability of those who see the world differently. Josh's voice is a gift that needs to be heard. And I really feel that you are put here, you are here to share this gift, to help others. And how did you get to being a poet with all the other many wonderful, incredible things? Share with us tonight about your poetry, about your heart, and about your dreams. Joshua Corwin, everybody.
Woo! Thank you so much, Elaine. I'm Joshua Corwin, and Elaine, that was lovely. Thank you so much. How I became a poet is by accident. Really by becoming vulnerable, which is the title of my book, which you can get at, as mentioned, at www.joshuacorwin.com. And also please do give generously to the Miracle Project. They're a great organization, and I'm so happy to be doing, to have them sponsor this launch, this book launch event that you are here for, as well as the Ad Poet Society Neurodiverse Recovering Addicts Poetry Exploration class. Now, how I became a poet, as Elaine said, I just graduated last year from, less than a year ago, from Pitzer College with mathematics. So how does one go from mathematics to poetry? Well, it really all is based on taking suggestion. And a professor said, Professor Al Wachtel, who wrote the foreword, thank you very much, Al. He told me, hey, you know, you read me a poem a couple months ago when you were studying. You should submit some poetry. So I did that. And I also want to thank my grandma, Corinne, as well as my late grandfather, Mert, who his penultimate words were, his last words were, don't ever stop writing. So I was putting together poetry, you know, as he was passing. After graduating, I took suggestion, let me get my poetry out there. He always wanted me to get my poetry out there. And I started meeting amazing people like Mike Sonskin, who wrote a testimonial. Thank you, Mike. You, Elaine, wrote one. Dr. Barry Prezant, Ellen Mabey, Rich Ferguson, Barbara Strauss Lodge, David Rockland, as well as my dear editor, Coco Marie Rodriguez. And thank you, Rich Linke and Alan Bale, for your expertise and emotional support and for helping with the book design, particularly Rich. So I realized that sometimes life can be challenging and vulnerability is a strength. It's not a weakness. And if you take suggestions and you share, because we live in very, very crazy, difficult times, and sometimes we just need to be vulnerable. And I realized that I wanted to help with the autistic addict community. And sometimes I fall on the floor, and it happens every now and then. I'm not able to articulate anymore. I fall on the floor. I have so much to hear and so much to say. And so as I was compiling and writing poetry, the poem, The Update, came to be about how hard it is as someone who's a neurodiverse individual trying to go about this crazy, crazy world we live in. And I realized in writing it that so next time when I fell and I couldn't speak, I was able to be grateful during that scary, scary time. And I could reflect on my entire journey of what brought me to that moment. It was an update. And this is the update. I tread transgressions against how far I've come. As a kid diagnosed on the autism spectrum, at the age of 5 and processing delay at 6, along with anxiety disorder and ADHD, I don't want to repeat circles with my feet, one smaller and the other. Reminds me of my mind. Neurotypical, also alcoholic, thank God I'm sober, but that's another story. Like a pacifist in rage, I need to accept my brain chemistry, but persevere. Circles, those feet, make them quake, and color loses its vivacity. Like the squeamish self I am, just see me at the doctor, please. Don't. I'm embarrassed by how I fade. Oh, it's so hard to fit in when you're hardwired to differ. Range like a spectrum of shapes. I circle, but I transcend. But because I do, I have these fits. Usually every 3 months or so, sometimes once a year. It comes from acting typical when you're atypical. Did I tell you I had to learn thousands of idioms? I thought when someone said, it's raining cats and dogs, that it was. Flashcards of rules. I don't want to rock back and forth as I pass on going out the door because I am now the floor, unable to speak when I have so much to say. That happens every now and then. And my feet repeat themselves in circles around a shape, a square, rectangle, or circle perfect. The kitchen table where dad is late because he's paying the bills so I can get the therapy I need and the speech therapy to learn idioms like it's raining cats and dogs. I feel like it's raining cats and dogs. The words and screams of atypicality in dysfunctional familyic ways, words invented. I have so much to hear. I have so much to say. I'm not trying to repeat the circle and fall on the ground, but perhaps putting on the guise and persevering like I do, perhaps I need to fall. Perhaps I need to circle. How else could I draw the line of when it's time to stop the update? Thank you.
Josh, I mean, we want to take a moment. I'm sure all of us. Right now, we have 102 people on this call, on this meeting. That is so moving and so powerful. You know, you shared, well, a couple questions I have, and then hopefully, you know, you'll go into reading some more poetry, but just a couple of questions. One is your mathematics teacher was the one who saw you and your talent and heard your voice. So, and now
it wasn't mathematics. It was my creative writing teacher.
Writing teacher. I'm sorry, I missed it.
I had it freshman year. And you know what? He saw me before I was sober and kind of building and working on myself. And then he got to know the new Josh, the changed character.
So he saw you and then he saw a whole different part of you, a whole different.
Yes, and he also was the one who wrote the foreword to this book, which means so much because he planted the idea and he wrote the foreword and he saw both sides.
He saw both sides of you. I mean, he sort of did with you like the way I saw you do with Neil. And you've chosen to be, as well as such a creative artist, you're a teacher. And you're going to be teaching the poetry class through the Miracle Project, but also your words, your mission is to help others. What is that like for you to be revealing so much about, I mean, a lot of people, there are people maybe listening here who are neurodiverse, they're still hiding that they have a difference. And what is it,
Yes.
what is your calling and what compels you to be that teacher, to share with others? What is it that's calling for you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Elaine. That's a great question. I first want to say that the update has became inspiration for the poetry class, the poetry exploration, Add Poetry Society, Add Poet Society class that I will be leading at the Miracle Project. And please do give generously. They're a great organization, and many different organizations need help. Also, please buy my book.
Oh, we will. You don't have to worry about that. We will.
What happened, to answer your question, was that I realized, you know, when I got sober, I remember about a year and a half into sobriety, I remember exactly where I was, and I had a moment where gratitude, to be grateful, no longer meant to be grateful. And I realized that there was this change that happened in me, and it was just the other day, on Friday, I was rereading my own book, and I felt like this is a different person who wrote this since the time I've been writing it. And I thought there was no way to pay back the gift. And for what I've been gifted of sobriety, to be sober, and I realized that I've helped so many people, and I'm continuing to help so many people, that I've been paid back more than I could ever ask for in my entire life. And I'm so incredibly grateful. And people, as I've been emailing, and we've been emailing people about this event, I've had people that have even reached out to me and opened up to me, and I've shared with, and they've shared with, and have shared about their struggles. And kind of that has been so rewarding. And I really do hope that you have the ability to reflect with yourself, to see yourself, and be vulnerable within the margins of your own life, of everybody's own life.
Beautiful, Josh. So I just want to read a little bit of things that are coming in. It's really amazing. Congratulations. We'll keep this on so you can see it later. But yeah, a shout out to Scott and Susan Corwin, just the gratitude to them for creating such an extraordinary young man. And I know you are all Quelling, and we've got bold, beautiful, courageous, every word, precious, priceless, powerful, a must-have. So there you go. And
that sounds like a book review.
yeah, I think that should be. I think that should be. I'm also getting texts at the same time. Oh, and I know that your spirituality is so important to you, and some of your mentors, the rabbis in your life, Rabbi Zach Shapiro is here, and Rabbi Alan Freeling is calling from New Orleans, Rabbi Feinstein, Noel Katz is in the house. Your rabbis, I'm hearing your political work, which I know is extraordinary, and the Los Angeles City Controller, we welcome Ron Galprin is here, and all of you who have come here to support Josh, who have come here to be supportive, but I know we're all growing and learning from you. So, I have another question. You were talking about falling on the floor, and I know you speak in metaphors, which is part of your poetry, but
That's literal. That's
exactly.
Something that happens.
That is a literal, but I was going to ask.
Literally something that happens, that every now and then, and it comes from, I think, from acting typical when I'm atypical, whatever typicality or atypicality means. Every now and then, as somebody who's neurodiverse, every sensory impulse or thing is screaming and cries out that sometimes I just want to go back to bed, or I can't handle it. and I can feel the hairs on the back of my head. I can feel my body. Everything is so visceral. I feel emotions more in depth. And sometimes it becomes so overwhelming going about the world that it's like I put on this front and all of a sudden, boom, I fall on the floor. I lose the ability to articulate with you guys as I am right now. And I have so much to say, but I can't, and it is terrifying. But through writing poetry, I was able to write this poem and let it come out naturally, and realized that this is a process, this is an update. So literally next time it happened, I was able to practice gratitude instead of fear while that happened, and literally reflect on my life.
So Josh, that's a message to
And that's what we hope to achieve also with Add Poet Society.
Yeah. So Josh, that's a message to those who are neurodiverse, and that's why I believe you're such an important voice and an incredible teacher, because people can study autism and study neurodiversity and study sensory overload, but from your visceral experience, you are going to be teaching and helping so many people. And especially something very important, especially today in this world and where we are, that in every second we have that moment, that second, where we can choose to be in fear or we can choose to be in gratitude. And that's an important message for all of us right now. So your voice, as Barry Prezant had said, your voice is a human experience that, because of your neurology, you're able to be even more finely tuned with a message that we all need to hear, especially now. So I thank you. Do you have another poem to share for us?
Yes. This is 12:01 a.m. It was first published in Alchimia Poetica. It was my second poem that was published, and it was nominated for the Pushcart Prize. And it's very personal for me, and you can read it many different ways. And it's published in a few other places. 12:01 a.m. I can hear the shine in your eyes on the other end of the telephone. When I speak like this, I feel authentic, not heavy. I don't have to tattoo meaning in the air to know what you mean. I remember when you first told me, apropos of nothing, about the different levels of charitable donation. I was sitting right across from you, over there. You in that armchair, me in this one, our eyes. You said there's the donor who gives large sums and puts a placard on the wall signifying who it's from. And then there's the other one who gives, but remains anonymous. Your words hanging like a phantom. I didn't have to be who I thought I was. You were once me, once where I was. In that moment, I knew. Thank you.
Tell us how that poem came to be.
Well, I feel like I was actually on the phone with someone here, and I was remembering a process of my life, and it was actually 12:01 a.m. and I literally said, I can hear the shine in your eyes when I speak like from the other end of the telephone. And you know, when I speak like this, I feel authentic and not heavy. And I ended up, getting off the phone and started writing. And that's how it happened. But I found that as somebody with autism, as well as someone in the recovery, it's been so important to practice humility and to realize that I don't need to know. I don't have to know. I don't have to figure everything out. And it's also me looking back at myself in a chair and I reflecting on who I was, because that's what the original conversation was about that sparked this. I was reflecting about a time where I literally sat across from another person in a chair and I felt for the very first time in a long time that I was listened to, because I didn't feel understood and my mind was telling me terrible, awful things. And now that I'm sober and I'm growing and I'm accepting my neurodiversity and I'm learning to embrace myself and the scars and not to shrug under the rug and hide under the covers, I know. And I know you do too. We all do.
Joshua, your vulnerability, your sensitivity, your empathy is so far beyond your years. And it speaks to me, speaks to my heart. And from everything I'm reading that people are saying here, and we'll keep this on so you'll be able to read this afterwards, that you're touching people in such a core way, and why everything you've been through is for a purpose, so that you could be sitting here right now sharing this with all of us. I'd like to open the lines right now. If you could email, if you have a question, email to Hannah Warren. Hannah, do you want to type in the chat your exact email? And while Hannah's doing that, I've got beautiful reading of 12 a.m. Joshua, such a great poem, and it's very moving to hear you speak about that. That's Kim Harvey. Flo Lawrence, love 12:01 a.m. Temple Akiba, I'm honored to be here. I have to be with our Mazel Tov to Josh, to the Corwins. Here we go. Send your questions to hannah@themiracleproject.org. It's right here in the chat. Oh boy, here's some more things. Elise, hi Elise. Josh, your sensitivity and willingness to be vulnerable makes you incredibly relatable. I can't wait for the world to receive the gift of your writing. And here's the beginning, right here at the Miracle Project. Oh gosh, so many beautiful things here. Scott, your dad, is thanking all of us, our city controller, for taking the time out of his busy day dealing with the city's response to COVID-19 to be here. What better place to be here, to be celebrating life, to be celebrating you. And can you hold your book up again for all of us to see?
Absolutely. Becoming vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Yeah.
Hannah, you tell me when you're ready. Is there any questions to hannah@themiracleproject.org for questions for Josh?
So far, I haven't had anything hit my inbox, but I did see somebody, Taylor, had put in the chat, Josh, I love all your work. My question is, what is your favorite piece and why?
That's a really good question. My favorite piece in this book, I'm guessing, I'd probably have to say either Gratitude After Breakfast, or probably my favorite one is Hello Grandpa, that is a prose, actually it's a hybrid poem, and I'm not going to read that one here. You can get that from my when you get the book. Or,
Gotta get the book. There you go.
but that one is, that one's about my relationship with my grandfather and hummingbirds and sobriety and Pitzer College. And I'm not going to read that one, but I will. Gratitude After Breakfast is another one. And there are so many other ones that, you know, Hi, My Friend, which is about a friend I used to do drugs with that I have no clue who he was. And I literally then introspected on and was thinking about him, and I got a text message that was beautiful, and I had no choice but to write spot on in the middle with the car door hanging open ajar. And there are so many great ones. I really do hope that you get this book, Becoming Vulnerable, at www.joshuacorwin.com. And literally, when you get with the book, please, you know, if you want, you know, feel free to write in the margins. Sometimes I'll just write in the middle of a book because, you know, I need to be vulnerable with something. I need to let it out.
So we have when we're writing that down, joshuacorwin.com, we've got some more. It's incredible.
A lot of questions coming in.
A lot of questions are coming in.
Okay, let's do it.
Want to hear questions or comments? Let's hear questions.
All right. We have some people who are curious to hear more about your relationship with your grandfather and what he told you that inspired your work.
Yeah. My grandfather, Mert, always wanted me to do some poetry or some literary thing and put my work out there. And we would always have these long, beautiful talks. We'd go to Soup Plantation in Brentwood. I'd come over to his place. You know, we'd have family gatherings, many different outings, and we would talk. And sometimes I would share with him some of my writing or give him stuff to read. And he always wanted me to put out a poetry collection and a book. So when Albert Wachtel, who wrote the foreword, said, maybe submit some poetry, and then combined with my grandpa, failing as he's failing, it's like, let me honor that. Let me, if it's a dying man's last wish or anything, I think, and I'm sure he's right now, I don't know if I believe in heaven, but I do know, I believe that he's looking down, and I still ask for his happiness, even though I don't know what happens. And he said, don't ever stop writing. And those were his final words to me in the hospital. And I was putting this book together because let me honor his wish, And I think he'd be proud.
I'm sure he is. Beautiful, Josh. Thank you. Another question, Hannah.
Josh, can you please explain your relationship with being sober and your work and passion about finding your voice in poetry?
Yeah, absolutely. When I got sober, one of the things I realized is that secrets and facades and lies were literally killing me and ripping me from, ripping my skin, and I had to start being vulnerable. I had to start being honest and let it out, to practice rigorous honesty, to find other people that I could share with, to find people to relate. And it is, and it still is, it can be difficult also as someone who's, a recovering addict, and also, autistic. I like to say for me with autism, that's my preference. that also has autism. It's different for each individual. And I found that through meditation, I went from 5 seconds to more and longer, bit by bit, that now I meditate for 45 minutes, up to 45 minutes in the morning. And sometimes I'll hear voices or I'll hear something of the muse and I'll start writing, and I'll find that that helps me to see my experiences and the relationships and interconnectivities to life much more clearly and easily, which enables me to have these opportunities to write about really interesting ways to grow and find ways to be helpful and useful. And I hope I continue to do that.
Yeah, Josh, you have a unique spirituality that's also very ancient and mystical. I mean, in the Jewish tradition, the idea of following your grandfather's words, and my father has passed, and he would say, you know, he can't be taking action right now, and we have to be his feet. And like you are your grandfather's, you know, you're his hands, you're in action. And that's so much a part of our culture and tradition. And in addition, you have this mystical side of you that's so powerful. And the way you're able to merge those worlds by drawing on your own experience is really meaningful and profound. And I know it's, you know, touching me, touching so many of us. The comments are just amazing. Your mind is your superpower. You're incredibly self-aware and insightful. Oh my gosh, this is says, thanks, Josh. You were the only person who reached out to me during my relapse. And you are continuing to encourage me to write, even though I hate it. I've started to learn upon using writing as a personal help tool, not only as an academic one. And I've learned to be vulnerable with myself, which is, hold that book up again. That's your message.
Yeah. And this is also a picture that I happened to take one day walking down the street, and it said, life's full of bumps. Who knows? You take something on your phone, it can be quite good. And, you know, maybe one day you'll use it for a book cover.
There you go. You never know.
This picture is downtown LA that I took. So yeah, there's lots of pictures in there too.
Somebody was asking, they said not to be Freudian. Where was that one? That was David Feld. But how has your mom and dad affected your work?
Oh, yeah, I find that what my parents enabled me to do is they helped me to get the therapy I needed so that I could grow and do what I needed to do, and just persevere. Though it can be a challenge and it can be a struggle, and a lot of individuals also on the spectrum, and especially on the spectrum and in recovery, there's incredible degrees of hypervigilance. There's so much pressure and internalization in the mind. So with every growth, there is a struggle. And my parents taught me that through charitable donation, as well as giving, being of service, going to Meals on Wheels, doing all that. My father's been involved with many different charities, as well as my mother. And her mother taught her to do the same thing and took her to Gramercy Shelter, just like she did with me, and to go to that. And, if I have kids one day, which I hope I do, I hope to pass on the tradition, because giving is a miraculous thing that is so underrated. I mean, it is so underrated. Yeah.
Well, your parents are among the most giving, nurturing people that I've been privileged to know and I learn from always. We're going to have one more question, and then Josh is going to close with the poem.
Josh, I was wondering if you could please talk a little bit about your podcast, Deciduous Dust, and how it relates to everything, and how we could find it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. And whoever who asked the question. You'll remain anonymous, I guess. Assiduous Dust, ASSIDUOUS, and then dust, 2 words. What happened was, like all good things, just like with this book, I kind of came upon this by accident. I also came upon that by accident. What had happened was, and you can find it at www.joshuacorwin.com under the podcast, also on Spotify for Assiduous Dust, on, many different, your favorite podcast medium. And I do have things with award-winning authors of many different authors or poets. I had S.A. Griffin, and I also had John Burroughs on. I'm going to have Alexandra Umlas and Charles Claymore on for next episode, and just amazing things. And it's beautiful. And it's so, I look at it as kind of like this spontaneous little bit of yourself that you get to give back in many different ways. And how it happened was by accident. I was going to be interviewed for a podcast, and all of a sudden somebody, the person 15 minutes before we were going to go on, called me up and said, "Hey, I'm not feeling like doing this anymore." Because I meditate so much, because it went from 5 seconds to eventually 45 minutes. And because I've learned to be humble and all those things, and I'm still learning and growing, I was able to pause, meditate for 15 more minutes. Timer went off. Then I called the person up and I said, "I completely understand. Thank you. And I hope everything's all right, what you're going through." And they said, "Hey, you should go do a podcast. You'd be great." So I started messaging a bunch of people. A few people popped in, and we did this little thing. And so it ended up being impromptu and on the spot, and then more people that didn't respond ended up responding back to me later, and it became a thing. And it became home of the OTSCP on the spot collaborative poem, because it was all done in spontaneity, and we collaborate in spontaneity. And yeah, please check it out.
Josh, it's kind of like jazz, it's when you trust that higher source, and there's so much in everything that you say, by stopping, taking a pause, meditating, coming up with a higher purpose, by having compassion for another human being, you were able to then take it to the next level. And I think that's something that is a message to all of us as well, as taking that pause, that same pause where you can choose fear or gratitude, that same pause where you can choose to feel upset and angry or compassionate. And that same pause that gets you to get out there and keep getting out there to share your message, which we're just so grateful that you shared with us tonight. Hannah, did you have one more thing that you wanted to add?
Sure. We have so many beautiful questions that I'm not sure we'll be able to get to in this session, but I'll make sure that they're passed along to Josh.
Absolutely. Yeah, please, however I can be helpful or useful in any capacity, it really means a lot. So please do.
Well, yeah. One thing that I would love to hear from your perspective a little bit more about is the Aud Poet Society, the class that you're going to be teaching through the Miracle Project. Tell me about why you think it is important, how you think it could be helpful, and who should sign up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Aud, AUT, for autism, but not just individuals with autism or autistic, but and not just for addiction. So Aud Poet Society really came from the poem The Update, and I was having a conversation with Elaine, and I said, you know, nobody's really talking about autism and addiction. Not as many people, and there ought to be more. And, you know, some people will even get turned away from certain programs to be helpful with that. And I thought, you know, let's do something with it. I'd like to bring a program to the Miracle Project where we use poetry, just like I use poetry to help myself next time I was in that state of updating, so to speak. And maybe we could do it in a way to help others, to be vulnerable and inspire others. And maybe it could be a growing process, just as life is. And you can find out more information and sign up, please, at the Miracle Project.
Fantastic.
Thank you, thank you.
And please do donate to the Miracle Project, because there are so many different nonprofits of many different types of autism. And, you know, please do. These COVID-19 times are really hard for different organizations, so please donate. You know, they need your support. There are many individuals who want to be able to help and give back and use their voice, and any contribution is helpful.
So, well, we have been inspired, moved, transformed, and I'm wondering if you could end with one more poem for us. And
Absolutely.
we'll stay after a couple of minutes if you want to share with people, and a virtual hug to you and gratitude. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What's this last poem you're going to be reading for us?
This last poem is, it's one of my favorites, that Gratitude After Breakfast. Was literally written after meditation. I found myself, you know, had this little mug that said, begin each day with a grateful heart, that my mom got me. I was looking at it, so it's like, let me just start writing. So that ties in.
You love your mom.
I used to think that meditation was a hoax. Then enlightenment was for those who turd in the ground. I used to think it was impossible to cease thinking for more than 5 seconds at a time. I secretly believed I knew everything. I used to deem gratitude an unnecessary word. I hated to stretch my cheekbones into a smile. I was convinced everyone was a phony. I used to think I was the shit. I used to think I was a piece of shit. I would be paralyzed by fear for hours. I would argue with mirrors, threatening to pound my fists into the clear. I used to curse the reflection I feared. I used to stay up all night dancing in sorrow, without consent, my entire body convulsing. I watched the sun rising, sadness and despaired like a mourner. Outside rising, inside dying. I used to not know if I was lying or telling the truth. I spent hours wrestling with my God, myself. I wake up in the morning and I say the Shema, and I make my bed, wash my hands. I wake up in the morning and I walk to the room next door, and I sit in a chair, listen for an hour. I wake up in the morning and sometimes I feel light as a feather. Then I make breakfast, smile as I wash my bowl. I wake up in the morning and I smile at the man in the mirror. Then I take a shower, hug my soul. I wake up in the morning and I think, God, I know I'm not him.
And I thank God that you are who you are. Blessings. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Thank
There's a question that was asked that I think would go very nicely with what we just witnessed. I'm still speechless. Forgive me. Dan asked or mentioned, I couldn't help but notice that you've expressed a lot of emotion. As a person on the spectrum myself, I severely dislike when people have the misconception that people on the spectrum do not show emotion. What are your views on this issue?
Absolutely, 100%. I am with you, just as Allen Ginsberg is with Carl Solomon and Rockland, except we're sane as a dog, as dogs here. I think that the common conception is that it's so ridiculously skewed and wrong. Anything, just like I have with sensory sensations and how it can be overwhelming, and sometimes I literally fall on the floor and aren't able to articulate. Similarly, those with autism spectrum, on the autism spectrum, they have such, I believe, this is my personal belief, and I hope that there's research eventually, maybe one day, if there's enough research, because we need more people to come together to show this and do great things to change the scheme. That individuals with autism process so much emotion, so much emotional information and input that they don't know what to do with it. So much so that it's overwhelming. And those who aren't on the spectrum think, oh, there you go.
Josh, I mean, that's what we know for real at the Miracle Project. And you know what Neil has typed, you know, it's too much emotion, and that trying to be neurotypical. I mean, you just said it all tonight. I want to thank again Julie Hain and Hannah Warren for co-hosting this tonight with us, and thank the Corwins and everyone who helped make this evening and possible. And thank you so much to all of you out there that have given Josh the courage to share his voice, and to those of you that are writing reviews. Keep those reviews coming. Talk about Josh on social media. Let the world know he's a name, a voice that so needs to be heard.
Yeah.
And, we're going to formally close the tonight session with just everyone. Maybe can we unmute and just say thank you, Josh?
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Joshua,
Joshua, you're awesome.
Yeah.
Josh.
Joshua Corwin. Love you.
Congratulations, man.
Amazing.
This was amazing.
Don't want to
Good job, Josh. Fantastic.
everybody to see.
Great job.
Comb your hair.
Fantastic, Josh.
This is why we don't want
Everybody
to
celebrates our humanness, you know.
We'll mute again. Just for people who wanted to stay after, can chat with him a little bit. Just a closing word for people. Something you'd like to share.
I just want to say that, you know, I'm now looking at the chat for some of that, and thank you so much for everyone. I just want to say that if there's anything, you know, life is a nonlinear path. We don't know what's going to happen. And in these COVID-19 times and all these other times, I'm no specialist, I'm no expert, but I just know with anything in life that we do have a choice to grow from every single experience. And I'm talking, when I talk in this way, just like when I speak this way, you know, I feel authentic and not heavy. I don't feel heavy because I'm also relating it back to myself of what I can do. And I really, really just hope that people can learn. I just realize if there's one thing that just, things aren't always linear. Just like individuals are neurodiverse. Just like individuals who are newly sober and in recovery don't know how the hell their life is going to play out. Things aren't linear. Enjoy it, really. And this is a hard lesson that I need to remind myself daily, if not more. I just felt like I needed to share that.
Thank you, Josh. And I see Jesse is here and his parents, our intern at the Miracle Project. Jeff and Ellen, glad you're here with us. And Josh, thank you. Thank you. We'll keep the lines open for another 10 minutes just for individual questions. And Scott wants to shout out to a very good friend and mentor of Josh's, Alan Bale. You were there for Josh, for all of you teachers and support people. Thank you. Oh my gosh, so many. An adult with autism, Jake is saying he feels seen, Josh. So yeah, anyone else? You're an inspiration, spot on. Melanie, oh Melanie, mwah, we love Melanie. She's such a contributor to our whole community. Agree with all your closing comments, pre and post being unmuted. She loves you so much.
Thank you.
So many. Scott says, and his dear mother, Grandma Corinne, is that right? Corinne, without whom none of us would be here. Blessings. Lawrence Stein, congratulations, Josh. Miriam and I are both so impressed and so proud of you. If you want to raise your hand now that we're doing informal, do you know how to raise, if you want to raise your hand in the chat room, we can call on you and unmute you.
We also have a number of questions that we didn't get to that people have already asked.
Yeah, if anybody wants to, if you want to pick a few for that, and we might as well during that for like a few minutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Josh, do you have a routine for writing, or does it flow through you spontaneously and cause you to sit down and grab a pen or computer? And do you prefer hand or writing with a laptop or a computer?
Oh, that's a really great question. I feel like when I know how I'm going to write, it's sometimes not a good sign, just like with all things should come by accident. I will sometimes, I try to write every day. You know, I'm working on a novel like right now, like, but things, the way they come is I'll try to get like silent, or I'll listen for a little voice. Sometimes I'll be like, you know, just stop, little voice, just stop or whatever. But I realized that rather than allowing that to kind of harass me, it's like, why don't I just write some of what it says? And I realized, oh, wow, sometimes I think in terms of poetry. And another thing that I'll do is I'll look at lots of books and open to random pages and trust my hands to the universe to do things. And I'll see a word and it'll inspire something, or I'll write it down and then I'll flip to another open page. If my mind is, if all of a sudden I'm thinking about something that happened in 3rd grade, but I'm like, but I want the poem, it seems to be about this. I'll write down that memory right there. I'll just do that because it's all happening right now. It's all happening. It's all very groovy and it's happening right now in this experience. So why limit it? You know, so many people have been limited in so many ways. I can edit later. Why would I, you know, limit the muse?
Speaking of which, some of your fans know that you draw a lot as part of your creative outlet. Do you still draw or do any other art to diversify your creativity, and where can we find it?
Yeah, I haven't put a lot of my art online yet, but I used to do abstract nudes as well as other art, and I also do have some really cool art in here as well as photography in Becoming Vulnerable. You can also find in you know, the back cover for Spectrum Publishing of Eroticity. You can find one of my art pieces, and it's a great publication as well. And they published my first poem. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you ever find that your subconscious and or visions from dreams or meditations come into your poetry?
Can you repeat that one?
Yeah, there's a lot in there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Do you ever find that your subconscious and or your visions from dreams or from meditations come into your poetry?
Yeah, so I'm going to treat that as 2 separate questions, if that's okay. Yeah, in terms of meditation, definitely. Not just the words that I kind of hear from in the meditation, but also sometimes I'll see some visual imagery. I'm a very visual thinker. And I also think in terms of a web instead of an outline. So I don't really know how I'm going to go from point A to point B to point C to point D. Instead, what it is D is actually point A again. And then you kind of get an essay in your way of thinking. So a lot of the times I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. If I knew what I was going to say, you know, why say it? That sounds like I'm just, but in terms of dreams, not so much. I find for meditation more, I'll have visual imagery and I'll just, sometimes I'll just write it in. Or sometimes it will come to me when I'm making breakfast. Because life's a meditation if we really think about it. Everything's a new experience. We just don't consider it as such.
So Josh, I kind of want to open it up now to be to people who have specific questions, just from the audience.
Yeah.
I think your dad has a question. Can we unmute Scott?
I have the question with me.
Okay.
He was wondering if you could speak to how did your experience before you became sober help with your writing and being of service to others? And also further, what caused you to get sober?
Yes, that's again a multiple part question. I have no clue what caused me to get sober. I really have no clue. I think that's part of the magic of it. You know, I realized that there was so many lies, and I actually did have a visual imagery. But I don't know if that by causation or whatever caused me to get sober. I remember that I was in one of my lies to my parents, and you know, what could I do? Let me spin this, and all of a sudden I kind of had this moment of clarity, and it was very visual, and I could see my life of many different paths of trajectories of what it would look like. And there was this feeling in each one of them, almost like there's multiple window web browsers up of different transparent clarity, all at once. And one of them, and in each one of them, it didn't matter what the trajectory and path looked like. There was this feeling that there's something wrong with my life, that this isn't going to solve it, this isn't going to solve it, this isn't going to work. And if I tried to explain it to someone else, they wouldn't get it and it wouldn't matter. So there's no way that they understand. And this is never going to go away. And captioned below this visual imagery was, I can't put up with this facade, as clear as day. And looking back at it, I'm grateful that I didn't choose to go into fear and just run with the facade.
Beautiful.
I think sharing about experiences like this help in my poetry and elsewhere.
Josh, I want to kind of let it be a little more interactive now because you still have some people who waited, and I'd love to open up just if anybody wants to raise your hand in the chat room and just say something. You can actually be your own voice and say something to Josh or something that you felt about his reading or a comment or just something you'd like to share with Josh. So in the chat room, and Hannah, you can help me, you can go to where and just raise your hand in the chat room and we'll be able to call on you and you'll be able to, and Hannah will, or Julie will unmute you so you could actually share your voice. Oh, Jackie and hi. So anybody want to share something, just raise your hand in the chat.
Hi everybody. I'm David Duffy, and I just congratulations, John and Josh. And this is the biggest night in our life. I'm very glad and honored to be here. And I just sent my question to Hannah by email, and I'm going to repeat. Josh, are you going to make some Zoom tour with your new book with the different audience with different countries, Europe, for example, UK, Australia, New Zealand? If yes, when it will be done and how? Thank you. You're a brilliant poet. And I'd like to say it's loudly that I'm very proud that I'm your friend. And in the name of Zoom by Zoom, you're a brilliant poet.
Zoom by Zoom. Yeah. That's a little inside joke that we have, an inside poetic joke. I don't know yet if we're going to be, I know that my book is available for a few different languages, I believe, as well. Finding out it's not directly in that way via via my website of joshuacorwin.com. But I wonder if you also meant that, are we going to have this thing in different languages or transcribed in different languages and maybe have this recorded thing elsewhere perhaps so that other individuals could be able to get this message? I don't know. We'll see. If that's another aspect of what you're saying, then definitely.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Anyone else want to, because we are recording it, so thank you.
Yes. Corinne Marie Rodriguez Ramirez. There you are.
Hi, Josh. It's Coco.
Hi, Coco.
Changed my name.
Oh, wow. Wow. You look great. And those who don't know, Coco is my dear friend and editor. You help so much with late hours for this, where it's Coco is great and should have a gold medal, where it's Coco, what do you think? Should this line be here or be here or here? And then you're what about this? I'm like, oh, whoa. Or it's like, and just, Coco, your mind is incredible.
You're the one that's incredible, and I am so proud of you for this moment. I am so proud of you every second that I've known you. It's been a beautiful, amazing journey, and I am so honored to have been able to help you harness your muse and help you visualize, because, you know, every period, every M dash means something.
There are a lot of M dashes. For those of you who don't know, an M dash is a dash the length of an M, and an N dash is a dash the length of an N.
Yes. And that every single format is intentional in Josh's book. So when you read it, really like soak it all in. It is like the best thing. It's euphoric to really step into.
I think what you're saying for a question is yes, I do believe so. The way I read the poem, if I change the line formatting at all, and if, yes, Coco, if I change, like, you know, where I have ellipses in certain places is where my voice goes down like this, because there are ellipses at the end. So the last word, it goes down. If the typesetting of it is all of a sudden closer, that means the line should be read a little bit faster, as well as if there's an M dash in the end. I have exactly the formatting in a way that's based so that poetry, so that spoken word poetry and just regular poetry becomes combined very much into one. And that's the approach I used in Becoming Vulnerable. And I think that, you know, that's the dream, for somebody to be able to understand ones that if you see how it looks on the page, you know how it sounds. If you know.
Siri!
Yes, exactly.
Siri, read that.
See how it looks, and if you hear it, someone read something, you'll know how it looks. And I think that's really important because we all want to be understood, and that's a really, really important thing.
And I'm so honored that you trusted me with your language and trusted me to help you shape exactly what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. We only have a few more minutes. We really want to let all your fans talk. So
Love you, Joshie.
thank you. Thank you. A couple other people are wanting to share something. We have like 2 or 3 more minutes. Anybody else want to say anything? Yeah. Just raise your real hand if you do want to say something. Yes.
Josh, it says you are unmuted. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, Gloria.
Oh, okay. You know, I just remember when you were 2 years old and you were in my parent infant toddler group with your mother. And the one thing I remember is you were carrying an umbrella and she couldn't get it away from you. At the time, I know I worked with autistic kids for a long time afterwards, but I wasn't aware that you were on the spectrum. So it's just wonderful to see you here. And I just send you my love and your family and your mom. Big hugs.
Thank you so much.
What a
Thank
joy
you.
for you to be here. All right, we've got 1 more minute. Sharon Roseman, wants to tell everyone that you're ready to read your book. And let's see, Allie Borgeson says this is so amazing. You're so amazing. And she's so glad she was able to be part of this. She pre-ordered your book and can't wait to read it. So I think everyone feels that way. Barry Prezant just said how wonderful this is. Barry, anything you want to say? One more thing from your teacher. Let's see, yes. Something else you wanted to say? Gloria?
Oh, I just said that I had pre-ordered the book and I can't wait to read it.
See, there you
I'm
go.
glad you explained it so I can read it the way you want me to read it.
Anybody else just want to share a comment before we take off? Oh, Barry.
Oh,
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Barry.
I'm thinking back to January when you
Yeah.
said to me, Barry, since you're going to be in LA, I want you to meet this young man. And so we had the opportunity to chat, and I recall how I was mesmerized by our conversation.
Yeah, about regression and
About what, sorry?
about regression.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because I was sitting here racking my brain saying, wait a second, we discussed something and we said we have to continue that discussion.
Yep, that was it.
About
And about how the outlook on regression in terms of our life narratives is a little faulty. The general way of looking at it.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, one of the myths and misconceptions I think about understanding the autistic experience, if you will. But I'll just always treasure that time that we sat down for 15 or 20 minutes because it was just a riveting conversation. You mesmerized me for 15 minutes. And as so many other people have said, I too am so proud for this great achievement. So congratulations and look forward to many, many more discussions.
Absolutely. I just want to say, you know what, might as well, you know, part of what's important is connections. And if David Duffy is still there, I think I mentioned to David that I wanted him to eventually meet you, Barry. Maybe you guys will connect after this thing is over and exchange information. I just feel like you two would be very cool. For some reason, it's been an intuitive thought.
Great, thank you. Connections are so important. Very
wow. Okay, so and both you and Barry are the greatest connectors of all over the world. Barry connects us, and Josh, you're the same way. You've got this one and that one and that one. It's wonderful. We want to close with your dad, and then we will end this magnificent evening that just has brought so much light into the world. So Scott, could you close for us?
Okay, have I been unmuted? I guess so.
Looking
All I want, what?
Looking good.
Thank you, Josh.
You don't look bad.
Like father, like son.
You don't look bad either. I just wanted to tell you, Josh, from both Susan and I, that your mother and I, that we are so proud of you and how far you've come and how much you've accomplished. And you're only, 26, soon to be 27 years old, and there's so much of your life ahead of you. And also to just acknowledge all the people and experiences in your life that have helped shape you to become the man that you are today. And, Elaine and Hannah mentioned a lot of them, but all of your teachers and your rabbis and the people that you've met in program and Alan and Melanie and everybody in the family. So I just want to tell you personally how proud I am of you and how much I love you. And you're just really wonderful. I'm proud to be your father. Looks like your mom wants to say something too.
She better. I love you too.
Hi, Joshua. Okay, I just want to say, and it's not even easy to talk right now, you are a gift and such a blessing to so many people. So many people truly love and cherish you, and you are a beautiful, giving human being. And I am so truly honored and blessed to be your mother. Thank you for always sharing from your heart. It is absolutely a challenge for everyone to be as vulnerable as you are. And I know you do it because you know how it gives to others. And I thank you. I thank everyone here who's supported you and encouraged you, and wish everyone a very safe journey in the months ahead for all of us.
Thank you.
What a beautiful way to close. And thank you all for sharing this time with us. We invite you to join us at the Miracle Project, and excited about Josh's class. And thank you to everyone.
Yeah, please be vulnerable.
Here's some inspiration to leave you with.
Ah,
Oh.
beautiful.
Thank you, everyone who joined us this evening.
Thank you, Hannah and Julie, for holding the fort down so beautifully.
Yay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah,
Until next time.
till next time. Yeah.
All right.
Josh,
Bye,
do it. No one wants to leave the space.
I know.
Yeah.
If you want to spend more time with Josh, then sign up to take his class on Wednesdays.
Yeah, absolutely. And if
It's a
you,
it's a virtual class. So if you're out of the city or out of the country, please encourage people, to
it's great what Zoom does. It's terrific what in this age with technology. It's just incredible that we're able to do this and come together in so many different ways.
All right. We'll be ending this meeting. Thank you all. And thank
Yeah.
you, those of you who are on the East Coast and stayed up late.
Yeah. Awesome. Have a great, grateful, productive rest of your 420.
Mhm.